What's going on, MMA fans? Today we're going to be talking about Colby Covington and his loss at UFC 245. I mean, come on now. Everyone was expecting that to be a really close fight. Everybody was expecting Colby Covington and Cameron Usman to basically use wrestling to negate each other on the ground. Everybody was expecting some type of blowout. There were some people even expecting Colby Covington to use his Division I wrestling to basically out-wrestle Cameron Usman, who most people seem to forget was actually training to be an Olympic-level wrestler and had actually competed against silver medalist wrestlers before even coming to the UFC, before even started MMA. Before coming into this fight, Colby Covington basically just made a complete butt of himself. Just seriously. Like, he felt like he had to. He keeps saying that before the Filthy Animals promo that the UFC was going to cut him, and I totally believe that. I totally believe that the UFC is going to cut him because the UFC has made it a point to tell people to move the needle, to be entertaining, and to do all this stuff regardless of how great of a fighter that they really are. And I don't want to take this away from Colby Covington. Colby Covington is seriously an amazing talent. He's an amazing fighter. And from this loss at UFC 245, I only really believe that he can get better from this point going forwed. The problem with Colby Covington is the fact that he continues going back to this Chael Sonnen-esque act. It's still cringy, but for some reason he believes that he still needs to continue this act to stay in the spotlight, to keep getting the exposure, and to keep moving that needle. Personally, I do not believe that he needs to do that, considering the fight that he just put up against Cameron Usman, who is, let's be serious, is a real, legit MMA UFC champion here. Tyron Woodley is seriously a legit champion. He's a legit fighter, and Cameron Usman put him away. For Colby Covington to go in there at UFC 245 and put up a legit fight against Cameron Usman, even with a broken jaw through 2 rounds or 3 rounds, whichever you want to call it, is seriously legit stuff. And I want to even be controversial here and say that Colby Covington basically helped sell this fight. Like, I don't want to be, just saying this to be controversial. I don't want to say this, because I'm on the Colby Covington train, because I'm totally not. But him bringing his perfect villain to UFC 245 for MMA fans to see him get beat by someone like Cameron Usman, it was a perfect storyline plot. Good guy Usman versus complete bad guy Colby Covington. It was entertaining, it moved the needle, and it worked for Colby Covington. But the thing is, he doesn't need to carry this act any further, but we still believe that he's going to do it. With this loss, Colby Covington knows that he has to get back in the spotlight, and that's one aspect of getting in the spotlight in the UFC, is continuing to entertain and to get people to feel a certain way about you. If MMA fans do not feel a certain way about a UFC fighter, the UFC doesn't give a crap about them. The UFC will cut them without blinking an eye. I mean, we're going to bring this back up. Look at the Demetrius Johnson and Ben Askren trade. Everybody can say that Ben Askren was a multi-organization MMA champion, whatnot, blah, blah, blah. But look at the trajectory. Look at the comparison. We're not saying that Ben Askren is not a phenomenal, fighter at all, but we're just saying it was a bad trade, and they traded Demetrius Johnson based off just pure entertainment alone. The UFC is willing to push fighters that, even if they are cringy, even if they are, like cutting terrible amateurish promos, whatnot, and everything, they're going to promote them. They're going to push them because they're still bringing exposure to the company. Colby Covington, he knows the game, and he is playing the game the way that he knows it has to be played. I hate it. We hate it. MMA fans hate it, but this is the way that the game is being played now. Sad part about that is Colby Covington is such an amazing talent that we wish that he did not have to play this game. Colby Covington can go back in there and he can wrestle. He can throw strikes at volumes of strikes. I mean, his problem, his loss against Cameron Usman at UFC 245 came down to the pure fact that it was not his Division 1 wrestling that failed him. It wasn't his striking volume that failed him. It was his accuracy. Even if Cameron Usman and Colby Covington went in there and wrestled to a draw the whole entire night, he was never going to beat Cameron Usman on accuracy. Cameron Usman, if you've seen him hit people, he has stunned fighters over and over and over and over and over again. Colby Covington, he stunned a couple of fighters, but not the way that Cameron Usman stuns fighters. And his accuracy was what? Like 48%, possibly 50%, where Colby Covington's accuracy, throughout his career was about 36, 38%. That was the biggest factor in this fight between Cameron Usman and Colby Covington. And it was a hard thing to sell because a lot of people were just saying like, oh, Cameron Usman isn't out there just knocking people out, but Cameron Usman isn't out there, Francis Ngannou uppercutting people into the shadow realm. But it didn't matter because the same stat of accuracy usually equates to accumulated damage, if not to a knockout. So Colby Covington coming into this fight, he was at a severe disadvantage against Cameron Usman, and it's very weird to me that none of them used wrestling. It's like they really went in there to settle a grudge. And Colby Covington, since coaches, should have looked at the stats, should have looked at the trajectories, and should have had a way better game plan than to go in there and try to win off of volume of significant strikes. Because that seemed to be what the game plan for Colby Covington was. And for the first 2 rounds, it looked like it was going to work. Colby Covington relied on his chin. He relied on his heart. He relied on his cardio. He relied on his volume of strikes. But the thing is, I just think that it was a risky game plan that as an interim champion, he relied on to basically get him through this fight. And it could have worked. MMA fans are out there saying that going into the 5th round, it was 2 rounds for Covington and for Usman. So maybe it could have worked. But even in the interim, everything is being overshadowed by Colby Covington's act. His striking, his wrestling, just overall potential to be an even more elite fighter than he currently is, possibly even a champion, is all being overshadowed by people just wanting to hate him and this act that he seems that he's going to continue going along with. We seriously believe that if Colby Covington were to just drop the act, go somewhere, find a professional boxing coach or like a championship boxer to train him for the next 6 months until his jaw goes back to being normal, because Cameron Usman basically broke his jaw, that he could be a legit threat, like within 2 fights, to that championship belt again. If he took that time to go box, do kickboxing, do something other than cutting promos, he could seriously be back at the title shot within 6 months, within this year, if possible. So we don't know. So maybe he's going to continue being Colby Covington, and maybe he's going to have to continue selling this act until, the UFC cuts him or he loses a streak of fights due to just relying on his chin and relying on his cardio, which is not what we're hoping for. So we don't know. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. So you MMA fans out there, give us your thoughts on this. Tell us if you think he's going to continue the act, or if he's just going to go out there and go train and become better, or if he's going to drop the act and actually be humble for once. Let us know down in the comments below. But other than that, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. It's right there. It's like right there underneath this video. Hit the like button so that people can know that, we're here. So YouTube can know that we're here, that you all like our stuff. Help us out here. And other than that, don't forget to go to our Instagram and basically follow our Instagram. It's MMA Hype News on Instagram. Look us up. But until then, MMA fans, we are out. And until next time.